The world had changed for Alex, and he was left trying to make sense of it. He'd lost his family, his friends, and his own sense of self. During this, he had found Croyd the Sleeper, a man who had become an ace when everyone around him had died. He lived that reality for the past 50 years, and he understood Alex. He had begun to look up to Croyd as a guide, a mentor, and as a hero. Even knowing how everything turned out, he reflected, he still felt that way even now. He had lost everything meaningful but had found Croyd, and with it a new sense of purpose. They spoke at length, Alex relating the disappearance of Kira and the odd things going on at the clinic. Croyd looked at him and bluntly stated, "You've got nothing, kid." The way Croyd saw it, she had taken off. Exasperated, he told Alex it happens and he should just let it go. It was that simple. Alex could not though, but look, he said, glancing sideways at Croyd, he tried again. If weird things were happening at the clinic, couldn't they be related, he asked, looking questioningly at Croyd before continuing. If we check it out, we could compare notes. Perhaps he could talk to Simon or the transition counselor guy and maybe end up helping find her. Croyd got to his feet and stood there, hands in pockets, staring at the ground while thinking hard on everything before responding back to Alex. Croyd didn't like this. Beginning to walk away, he said it smelled wrong. He threw a question back over his shoulder, asking if the cops had put him up to it. Shocked at the accusation, Alex quickly stammered back. He would never do something like that. Croyd leveled a finger at him and harshly shouted back in anger, saying how that was crap, kid, because everyone does it. With a desperate, tired look in his eyes, Alex earnestly implored to Croyd, "I need help." Seeing Alex's honest, heartfelt request, Croyd relaxed. Calming down some, he said, "Yeah, okay," and apologized for his accusatory outburst as an amphetamine pill bottle, Adderall 30 milligrams, is shown. Croyd explained that it had been 3 days since he had last woke, and the pills were beginning to make him a little cranky. They began making their way toward the Jokertown clinic. An ambulance sped down the street, its sirens wailing through the night. Calling after Alex, Croyd advised they had to be careful about how they did this, as they didn't want any surprises. "No problem," Alex said, looking back at Croyd with a determined look on his face. This late at night, there would be no visitors, and all the doctors would have gone home. The place should be dead quiet, he thought. They turned a corner, and to their shock and dismay, the front of the clinic was bustling. Multiple ambulances were out front as another came pulling in, sirens blaring. A mess of activity could be seen as EMTs and clinic staff rushed around to receive the patients flooding in. Hastily, Alex and Croyd turned their backs on the scene, ducking for cover behind one of the ambulances. In front of the clinic's main entrance, 2 policemen stood watching the commotion while conversing with Security Chief Troll as patients were unloaded. "Are they sure it's the Trump?" one officer inquired. The other officer replied, "Everyone being brought in is either turning back or dying. What the hell else could it be?" Chief Troll interjected and confirmed it was indeed the Trump Virus. This was now the second exposure that day, and the vials recovered at O'Malley's Alley matched those taken when Nurse Winters was killed. "Croyd, then?" one officer mused and asked further if he thought there was any relation to the missing Joker kid. "Croyd's a speed freak at the end of a bender. He could be thinking anything," one officer stated. The other officer responded back, pointing out though that when Nurse Winters had died, he was still eating everything in sight, implying he had just woken up, so why steal the Trump Virus? Besides, he added, Croyd doesn't poison people, he beats the shit out of them. Troll interjects, "Yeah, and Croyd was here. I jumped him because you guys told me he killed her." Angrily, he jammed his finger into the chest of one cop and continued, "If he is a witness, he might know something. Now he's spooked and won't show up back here." One cop raised his arms in a calming gesture towards Troll as the other stated simply that he is wanted for other things and has killed people over the years. Seeing the scene taking place near the front entrance, Alex hastily grabs Croyd by the collar and yanks him back out of sight, suggesting they enter the clinic from a side entrance. Meanwhile, Troll continues lambasting the officers, growling back in frustration that he had a murder happen on his watch. A missing Joker kid he is trying to keep the lid on, and now over 300 Jokers dead from a virus stolen from the clinic. Frankly, he doesn't give a damn what the sleeper did 10 years ago. "I care about what's happening now," Troll admonished, finishing his rant. The scene shifted to the chaos within the clinic after the influx from O'Malley's. Mike Fallon is seen speaking to a man who tried explaining what happened. It was weird, he said. One minute everything was fine, the next he felt like he was burning up, and then he trailed off while Fallon added knowingly, "I know it's a shock, turning back." The man continued on, lamenting about how he never had the balls to take the Trump virus. But now, conflicted, his mind raced. He had lost 6 friends out there today. He wasn't sure if he should hand out cigars to celebrate his return to normalcy, or slit his own wrists over the guilt he felt. Fallon asked how long he had been a Joker. "Since I was a kid, 12 years old," the man said. Fallon redirected him to more positive thoughts and asked if he ever thought about what he could do if not for the wild card. "Well, sure." The man started just as a press crew standing nearby turned to catch the scene unfold. In the background, Alex is seen darting across the hall. Fallon leaned in, his face close, and with an intense look etched upon it, he said in an unhinged tone, "This is the moment. That fear had you trapped, now you're free. Be thankful." Taken aback, the man leaned away from Fallon's penetrating gaze. Yeah, I guess you're right," he mumbled. "I should just be happy." Fallon reached an arm out and gently placed it over the shoulder of the man, his voice lowering, losing the previous intensity. "It's going to be better for you now, trust me," he told him, relaying how he had been a Joker too and how the Trump had saved his life. In a rasp, the man numbly said in response, "Yeah, great, thanks." Mike Fallon turned away then and shuffled over to the growing gaggle of press filling the hallway and advised them he could give a statement on behalf of the clinic. The former Joker man Fallon had been speaking to, now alone again, swiftly pulls out his phone. He dials a number and waits for the pickup. He hears his nephew's voice on the other end. "Hey, this Davey?" he asks, identifying himself as Uncle Max before asking if his mother is home. "Jenny, it's Max. Something happened," the man says as the scene cuts over to Simon standing in a bedroom, looking over his shoulder at a large mirror with a picture stuck to it. While searching for Kira using his mirror world ability, he stumbled into Kira's slightly messy room. Over the scene, Max's conversation continues with Jenny in the background. Max says he's not sure it's bad, but needs to get out of Jokertown for a while. Walking over to the mirror, Simon gazes at the photo. The picture shows Kira and 2 of her girlfriends. Simon thinks to himself, his ability is responding to what he is looking for, but unfortunately he doesn't have it fully figured out. He believes with a few more tweaks, the target visualization will be correct. In the background conversation, Max finally blurts out to Jenny, "Can I come home?" With a downcast look, Simon reaches out and grabs the photo and pulls it off the mirror. Standing there, he holds the picture up, thinking deeply while staring intently at it for a few moments longer. With Kira's picture in hand and nothing further to be gained there, Simon steps back into the mirror world, headed back to the clinic. Visualizing where he wants to go, he whooshes through the mirror world, floating across its plane, and soon sees the backside of the mirror from the room he's been using to search for Kira. Spotting it, he reaches out to the mirror. Once there, he slowly begins phasing back out through the mirror, head first into the room. Grok! A gurgling, choking noise was all he was able to get out as a crustaciously clawed arm darted out and grabbed Simon, clamping down tightly around his neck the moment he began emerging from the mirror. Simon, dragged aggressively the remainder of the way from the mirror world by a suited man, is then forcibly slammed up against a nearby wall. Simon hears the familiar voice of Alex shouting Croyd. Pinning him there, the man looms menacingly and threateningly says to Simon, "Son, you are going to tell me where the hell you've been and who you've been talking to." Then adds, "You better not make a peep or I'll kill you. Clear?" Alex, jumping in from behind, shouts at Croyd saying that Simon is also trying to find Kira, swearing that Simon hasn't spoken to any cops. After a short time, he manages to get Croyd to release Simon. Alex, holding Croyd back, watches as Simon slumps to the ground, exclaiming in outrage to them both, "What the hell is this?" Simon regains his composure, jumping to his feet, visibly agitated. Alex switches up now, trying to hold Simon back as he hurriedly explains to Simon that Croyd is a friend of his who knows Jokertown and will help them find Kira. "That's your friend," Simon roared back. "What is your problem?" In a menacing hushed growl directed at Simon, Croyd calls out, "Hey." Sitting nonchalantly on the bed now, Croyd stares directly at Simon while pointing his claw. He casually reminds him in an ominous tone to remember what he said about raising his voice. Crossing his arms, Simon leans back against the wall, the fight now gone. With a frown, he divulges that he has yet to find her, but he's getting closer. "Why do you care, kid?" Croyd challenged. "What is this girl to you?" Nothing much, Simon replied back curtly before continuing. He explained that mostly he didn't like the shrink and wanted to know why he kept lying about her. Both Croyd and Alex gave him a quizzing look. The shrink? Repeated Croyd. Simon resumed, explaining further. Fallon, the transition counselor who leads the group therapy. He's a sensitive douchebag. Total asswipe. Confused, Alex asked Simon, how do you know he's lying? Baffled at Alex's naivety, he mockingly replied back, geez, Alex, it's not like he's any good at it. Croyd had heard enough. Looking at both young men, he said, here's the deal. He would go ask around about the girl while they would stay at the clinic and look into what's going on. Then they would meet back up and trade information. Alex gave a sharp glare back at Croyd. He wanted to go with Croyd to ask around about Kira. Simon raised his hands, shrugged his shoulders, and innocently stated with his usual snark, the Trump outbreak? Is that still going on? Croyd's interest was piqued now. He looked over at Simon and smiled with a devious glint in his eyes. What? Simon asked. They had a bunch of bums this afternoon, and then tonight some nightclub. You'd have heard about it too. He added sardonically, if you hadn't been out looking for this guy, he gestured at Croyd. Sounds like you get to trade first, Croyd said, suggesting he tell him everything he knew about the outbreak. Then we'll see about finding your friend, Croyd finishes as the scene cuts to an apartment room and a voice calls out to Kira, who is seen locked in a small cage on the floor. Mike Fallon emerges into the room, phasing through the overly padlocked door. Fallon calls out again for Kira, asking if she is all right. Kira responds back, letting Mike know she is here and stammers she is fine, but could use a bedpan change. He approaches the cage, leaning in close, offering apologies to her for being late because today had been the big day and he had lost track of time. Are you hungry? He asks. She tells him yeah. Congenially, he says they still have some soup. How does that sound? Or a sandwich. She's ravenous, but can't help but picture the bowl of nasty food that had been presented before, flies buzzing around it, and tells him whatever, anything. Scooting to the kitchen and opening the fridge, Mike affably continues telling her about how well things went. There must have been 1,000 people there, and he wished she could have seen it. With a certain giddiness to his voice, he adds that it was beautiful. Mike finishes preparing a sandwich tray, grabs a drink, and moves to close the fridge. He should feel more exhausted, but oh, she should have seen their faces. They were stunned. They were so... He paused briefly before finding the right word and settled on happy. Heading back into the living room with the tray, Mike asks her to guess what the final count was. Yet in his euphoric fervor, he quickly says, 312. That would be 312 jokers who had woke up this morning twisted, lost, trapped by their own fears, and now tonight they were all normal again. Upset, Kira claps back, asking, how many died? Admonishingly, he tells her not to be like that. He knows she does not approve, before adding that 298 died, but it was still a good night. Ravenously, Kira grabs the sandwich and begins eating. She ponders thinking only 14 lived and wonders when this psychopath plans to play Russian roulette with her life and the Trump. Sitting down on the couch, Mike continues saying it hurts him. She would suggest that he is not just some killer. What he is doing is healing. Yes, some people die, but in medicine, doctors lose patients every day. It doesn't make them murderers. All he was doing is giving jokers back what they are too scared to. Kira cut him off. What about the nurse then? You killed her. Glaring at Mike, Kira added that she knew his identity and could testify against him. He couldn't let her live. She wasn't dumb. The nurse had been an accident. She shouldn't even have been there, he quipped, adding that he was only keeping Kira safe and out of the way. For now was the implication, and she inquired back at Mike, until... Mike looked back before telling her, staring while thinking how obvious the answer to her question was. Until I've saved everyone I possibly can, he declared. You told me once that half of those turned into jokers try to kill themselves within the first year. Remember, do you know how many aces try? About a third. Nobody gets the wild card and survives. Not really. You're trying to get caught, she blurted out before thinking. You want them to kill you. She cringed then after the words had left her mouth and cowered in fear of a backlash. Walking across the room, Mike froze at her words, face going blank. Tension rose in the now quiet room as he stood there for a moment looking at himself in the mirror above the fireplace mantle. I'm sorry, she apologized quickly. I shouldn't have said that, she sputtered out. With a stone-cold look across his face, he calmly said in response, you should rest now, please. She desperately implored, stuttering out another apology. She didn't really mean that. It had just come out. Crouching down, he locked eyes with her and dispassionately continued, I understand we're both under a lot of stress right now and we need to honor that. And Before he could finish, she weakly squeaked out, "I don't want to die." He reached a hand into the cage then, and cupped her face gently. In a cooing manner, he whispered for her to sleep now, telling her it was all going to be just fine. "You'll see. It'll be morning soon, and everything always looks better in the daylight." The scene cuts to Croyd rushing down a Jokertown street that same night with Alex hot on his heels calling for him to wait up. Simon told him everything and Croyd had sat listening. Simon told him where it happened, when it started, how many people they expected to die or to live or go back to being just like they were before. That was how he put it, just like they were before. It had been the only time he had heard Croyd laugh. When he'd heard it all, he took off. "Hold on!" Alex finally caught up to Croyd and grabbed him roughly, pulsing an electric shock through the point of contact. "Hey!" Croyd shouted back at Alex, dripping hostility. He warned him to watch the fabric. Spinning around, claws out, Croyd swiped at Alex with a clawed arm while offering a quick piece of advice. "Don't ever touch me, kid." Alex jumped back in a blur, narrowly missing the strike, and retorted, "Yeah, well, don't ignore me." He didn't even know where they were going, he added, flushed. What we? Croyd shouted at Alex in a manic, speed-based, sleep-depraved rant. "I just got a good lead here. I'm going to find the guy and cut his eyes out with a grapefruit spoon. You're going to go play video games or something? How the hell do I know?" Coolly, Alex asked, "What about Kira?" Croyd's confused response was a simple, "Who?" He lost it then and roared back. "Kira, the one who went missing, his friend. That was the deal. Simon told you about the outbreak, and you help us look for Kira. You'd talk to Fallon. You'd help." He finished his tirade, thinking that instead of helping, Croyd had gotten his lead and ran off on a tangent, ignoring everything else. Croyd hunched in on himself, visibly shaking, seemingly at war with himself. In one final assertive push, Alex repeated the words again, "You said you were going to help." As he concluded, he heard a low, "ah" growling come from Croyd. It became a full wailing, "ah," as Croyd lashed out at the nearby wall, gouging chunks from it. Frustration, anger, and a hint of paranoia were etched across Croyd's face as he said to Alex, "Kid, I've been awake for days, hopped up on old speed pills from the 80s. Dunno what it's cut with or broken down into. Could be rat turds for all I know. If I go to sleep, I got no idea how long I will be down. When I wake back up, I may be a joker or have some useless deuce power. I have a killer to catch, and I don't have a lot of time left to do it." With a modicum of control, Croyd retracted the claws and began striding away, calling back over his shoulder to Alex, "If I get this done before crashing, I'll come help out with your missing persons thing, okay?" Still leaning against the wall, Alex let red lightning crackle from one hand and said to his retreating back, "Then let me help you." Determined, he added, "The sooner your problem's fixed, the sooner we find Kira, so let's go. You have gotta be—" Croyd started before Alex interrupted, coldly stating, "I'm not going away unless you kill me." Alex told him he wasn't going away. What he meant was that he wasn't going to be left behind. He'd lost too much already. Arms crossed, red lightning arcing, Alex stared at Croyd, who stood there a moment longer, utterly vexed before mumbling, "For F's sake. What did I ever do to deserve this kind of shit?" Croyd knew because he'd been ready to jump, and he'd been the one to listen. To talk him down, he knew. He hurriedly began walking off, then called back. "Come on, kid. I have a bolt hole a few blocks from here. I need to make a few calls. Talk to some people." "Okay," Alex said, starting to follow. After that, Croyd continued, "We will see where we stand. So when was the last time you got any sleep?" he asked. The irony, Alex thought. The guy who hasn't slept in days asking me about my last nappy time. He told Croyd haltingly, yesterday. To which Croyd casually asked if he wanted something for that. No, thanks." "You sure?" he said. "I was just kidding about the rat turd thing." Inside Croyd's bolt hole, the place was dusty, musty, and smelled like old mildew. After brewing a pot of coffee, Alex sat sipping it, feeling better than he had in days, while Croyd hopped on a phone and started making calls. His voice kept getting louder. Watching him, Alex saw that he could not stop fidgeting with everything near him. Whoever he was speaking to, Croyd asked them for anything they had, surveillance video, witnesses, or any rumors. The phone conversation continued as Alex blew on the hot coffee in his hands before taking sips. Croyd, speaking to the mysterious contact, stated that long shots were all he had right now. A place called FSM was mentioned. Croyd repeated the name, indicating his dislike of the place. Croyd thanked his contact Jen, advising he owed her one. Before placing the phone back on the hook, he looked up at Alex now standing over him and exclaimed, "Kid, we got a lead." He explained that Jen was an ace who could hear a cockroach humping half a block away. She has a nasty crack habit as it helped her sleep at night, and that she sells information when not on the nod. They stood to leave, and Croyd elaborated, says she heard a cabbie talking about a weird fare for a guy going to the Jokertown clinic. The thing is, it was just before all hell broke loose at O'Malley's. Croyd shook a few pills out of one of his bottles, and Alex asked if he thought it was the killer. They left the bolt hole. Croyd swallowed the pills. Who knows, maybe the guy's water broke. It's all we've got right now. The cabbie was at this club, FSM. Figure we'd give it a try. The scene shifts to Club FSM. Inside the club, an odd display sat behind the central bar. A large tank filled with a bubbling liquid had what appeared to be huge eyeballs, ventricles, and a giant brain suspended inside. The tank rose higher than the catwalks along the second floor. A buzz of loud chatter was heard throughout the club as a menagerie of Joker and Nat patrons entertained themselves within. Croyd and Alex approach a seated man, Croyd asking, "Excuse me friend, are you Hamja Rajmanapur?" The man without looking up says to him, "Piss off." The man seemed deep in his cups. Croyd tried again, saying he didn't want to intrude or anything, but thing is, I heard you had a fare last night, wanted to go to the clinic right before O'Malley's turned to crap. Without looking up, eyes remaining on his cup, the man asked, "You a cop?" "Not me, pal," Croyd gruffly answered back. Hearing that, the man took a pull on his drink. With the alcohol dripping off his chin and head still down, he snidely said, "Then you don't got a warrant, so piss off." Losing his patience, Croyd's hand begins shifting into the claw carapace, and in a low growl says, "You've got it all wrong, pal. A warrant is what they need when they search you." The threat in the statement was tangible, and the man finally reacted and started to look up. Bam! It was too late now. He had angered the pill-popping bull and was now getting the horns. In a quick rush, Croyd grabbed the man by the shirt with one claw hauling him up. Glasses and bottles crashed, breaking, alcohol splashing all over. "All I want is an answer to a very simple question," Croyd growled as the man flinched backwards with a yelp. His claws smashed into the cabbie's face and sent him reeling to the ground. Around them, the club bouncers began to move in on the ruckus occurring at the bar. One growled in hostility as Alex jumped between the bouncer and the scuffle of Croyd and the cabbie. "Don't!" he threatened as he let loose his red lightning from both hands, suggesting the bouncer just stay out of this one and let it go. Behind him, Croyd continued to rough the cabbie up. "I didn't watch, I listened." Perhaps that was worse, Alex thought. I still remember what it sounded like. The cab driver grunting and fighting for breath. Croyd's claw against the man's bleeding face. The wet sound when something snapped. "Ag! Stop it!" the cabbie shouted out. "Okay, whatever you want to know." Looking completely psychotic, Croyd yelled back, "No, pal, not whatever. The fare, tell me about the goddamn fare." Crimson energy splayed about as Alex continued to fend off any intervention from the growing crowd. The cabbie in a weak, pain-racked voice said, "I got him maybe 2 blocks from O'Malley's." Threatening a further beating, Croyd told him, "More, pal, I need more." The cabbie eked out that he was paged to the clinic emergency. Reflecting, Alex thought, this was the moment I started realizing I was in over my head. The grilling continued. The cabbie sputtered out that the guy was in his 40s, maybe late 30s, wearing a cheap suit. Croyd pressed him for a name. He cried back that he did not know. Alex stood there, running interference, while steadfastly guarding Croyd's back. He was like a detective ace, the kind of guy who understood things and set them right. The one ray of real hope Alex had. At least that's what I thought, but now he was just basically beating a guy to death, and I was helping him do it. Up close and personal, Croyd was ready to start Hulk smashing again when the cabbie had recalled a detail. There was a woman doctor who waved at him when he got there, but she didn't say a name, just about how someone had fallen down. I just figured it was about the emergency. What did she say? Croyd pressed. Just fallen. She just waved a little and said fallen. Alex, guarding against any intrusion of the questioning, heard the cabbie utter the word fallen from behind him. He heard Croyd repeat the word out loud. Fallen. Wait, what? He thought, lifting his head, the prior moment of complete concentration he had while holding back the crowd forgotten. Eyes scrunching and mind spinning, the word fallen settled into his brain as his thoughts churned, quickly processing what he had just heard behind him. Wham! Just like that, it hit him in a shocked rush. It was the transition counselor Mike Fallon. Next, in wild cards, the hard call number 5. Croyd Crenson, better known in Jokertown as the Sleeper, has tracked down the dog-masked serial killer who framed him for murder. Will Crenson and Alex be able to stop him from striking again, or will one of them be his next victim? Find out next month in Wild Cards, The Hard Call Part 5, and thanks for watching.